They thought they were just exploring an abandoned mine in the Mojave Desert, but what they found was still alive. No one knew about this place except a mysterious Instagram account with creepy, blurry photos and no explanation. The deeper they went, the colder it got, until the light from the entrance disappeared. Then they heard it, metal scraping across the tunnel floor, getting closer and closer. What came next wasn't human, and it didn't want them to leave alive. The beam of Ryan's flashlight shook as he tried to keep it steady. "It's just rocks falling," he whispered. But the sound wasn't rocks, it was deliberate, heavy, like something dragging itself closer. Casey grabbed his arm. "We need to get out now." They turned toward the way they came, but the narrow tunnel seemed different. The walls were closer, the air thicker. The entrance light was gone. A deep, guttural breath echoed from behind them. Then another. It was following. They ran, their boots slipping on the uneven ground. Ryan's light caught something, a shape crouched in the shadows, pale and stretched, its limbs too long. The thing's head jerked toward them, its eyes catching the light like a cat's, except they glowed in unnatural orange. Casey screamed and bolted ahead, but the tunnel forked. In panic, they took the left path. Bad choice. The air grew colder, and strange markings appeared on the wall, scratches, symbols, and crude drawings of human figures with their eyes gouged out. The sound of metal scraping came again, this time from both sides. Ryan realized there was more than one. "Casey, right side," he shouted, swinging the flashlight just in time to see another pale figure crawling along the wall like a spider. Its mouth opened wide to widen, a rasping hiss filled the space. They stumbled into a wider chamber. In the middle stood an old mining cart, rusted and half full of bones. Casey gagged, and Ryan grabbed her hand. Behind them, the creatures closed in, their long fingers tapping the rock-like claws. Ryan spotted a narrow shaft above them, just big enough to squeeze through. Up now. They climbed, the creatures lunging just as Ryan pulled himself into the shaft. One hand, cold bony, clamped around his boot, nails piercing through the fabric. He kicked hard, the grip loosening just enough for him to scramble free. They crawled until they saw daylight, faint but real, bursting out onto the desert floor. They gasped for air. But when Ryan looked back, the tunnel entrance was gone, just solid rock, and in the sand by their feet, fresh, glowing orange footprints leading away into the desert. Something was out here with them, and it wasn't trapped underground anymore. The tunnel swallowed us whole as we pressed forward. The flashlight beams jittered over rusted rails and damp rock walls, revealing old mining tools scattered like someone had dropped them mid-swing. Mika was breathing fast. This wasn't in the Instagram pictures," she whispered. I glanced back toward the entrance, but it was gone. The dark behind us was thick, swallowing the faint desert moonlight. That's when the scraping returned, louder this time, metal on stone, like something dragging chains across the ground. "Keep moving," I said, but my voice cracked. We turned a corner and found a wooden door wedged into the rock. It shouldn't have been there. We were underground. The wood was fresh, the nails new, and carved into it, in long, deep scratches, was one word: leave. Rika reached for the handle. I grabbed her arm. "Don't." The scraping stopped. Silence pressed against our ears. Then, 3 loud knocks echoed from the other side of the door. We ran. The mine seemed to twist in ways it hadn't before. The rails bent upward, splitting into dead ends. The air grew heavier, colder, like we were breathing inside a freezer. My phone buzzed, a notification from the same creepy Instagram account, a new photo. I opened it. My blood froze. It was us, right now, standing in this tunnel. But behind us in the photo, something tall and bent stood in the dark. Its limbs were too long. Its face, if it had one, was just a pale blur. Rika screamed, "It's behind us." We didn't turn around. We just ran, every step echoing like gunshots in the tight space. The air shifted. Whatever was back there was moving faster. Suddenly Mika tripped, her flashlight spinning into the dark. I yanked her up, but she wasn't looking at me. She was staring past me, eyes wide, whispering, "Don't let it touch you." A cold, dry hand brushed my neck. My skin burned like ice. We exploded out into another chamber, but this one wasn't empty. The walls were covered in photos, hundreds of them, all pinned with rusted nails. All of us, every step we'd taken inside, even ones from outside the mine. Before we came here, the scraping started again. Louder, closer. There was only one way out, a narrow shaft leading up. We climbed, the thing's breath cold on our backs. My muscles screamed, my fingers slipped, but daylight finally broke through. I dragged Mika and Rika out into the desert sand. The mine entrance was gone, just rock solid like it had never been there. But my phone buzzed again. A new photo, 3 of us, standing outside the mine, and behind us, that same pale, bent thing. It was just after 11 p.m. when Mika left the diner where she worked the late shift. The night was quiet, the air heavy with the smell of rain. She adjusted her hoodie and started the short walk to her apartment, cutting through the park like she always did. Streetlights cast long shadows, but one figure stood out leaning against the far lamppost. He was tall, dressed in an old-fashioned black suit, his face pale under the dim light. Mika thought nothing of it. At first, maybe someone waiting for a ride, but as she walked past, she noticed something unsettling. He was staring right at her, and he didn't blink, not once. Her pace quickened. She could feel his gaze burning into her back. She glanced over her shoulder. He hadn't moved, but his head had turned to follow her. Mika's chest tightened. She pulled her phone from her pocket, pretending to text, but her hands were shaking too much. Halfway through the park, she heard the sound of footsteps behind her, slow, steady, matching her every move. She turned around. He was closer now, still staring, eyes wide, unblinking. "Can I help you?" she called out, forcing her voice to stay steady. No answer. He just tilted his head slightly, like he was studying her. Mika's instincts screamed at her to run. She bolted for the exit, her sneakers pounding against the pavement. The sound of his footsteps grew faster, chasing her. She reached the street, but when she turned, he wasn't there. The park was empty. Breathing hard, Mika hurried to her apartment building, fumbling with the keys. Just as she unlocked the door and stepped inside, her phone buzzed. A new message appeared, an unknown number. "Why did you run, Mika?" Her stomach dropped. She hadn't given her name to anyone. My breath came out in sharp clouds, each step heavier than the last. The moonlight barely touched the trail ahead, swallowed by thick fog that crept through the trees. I kept hearing it, a whisper, soft and quick, like someone murmuring right into my ear. But when I turned, nothing. The old cabin appeared through the mist like a ghost, its roof sagging and windows dark. My gut told me to turn back, but my curiosity was stronger. Or maybe it was whatever had been following me, pulling me forward. The door groaned as I pushed it open. The smell of rot punched me in the face. Inside, the air was heavy. Dust floated in my flashlight beam like tiny ghosts. That's when I noticed it. Every inch of the walls was covered in photographs. Faces, hundreds of them. Men, women, children. Their eyes were scratched out. A noise came from the back room. Footsteps, slow and deliberate. My flashlight flickered. I moved toward the sound. My heart beat a war drum in my chest. The door to the back room was slightly open. I pushed it and froze. There was a figure in the corner, hunched over, whispering to the scratched-out photos it held in trembling hands. The moment the beam of my flashlight touched it, the head snapped toward me. No eyes, just smooth, pale skin where they should have been. It dropped the photo, stood up, and rushed at me without a sound. I bolted, slamming into walls, clawing my way to the front door. I didn't stop running until my legs gave out. But when I looked at my hands, I was holding one of the photos from the cabin, and the face in it was mine. They told me the old lighthouse on Blackwater Point hadn't worked in decades. The town council boarded it up, claiming it was unsafe, but locals whispered a different story, that anyone who went inside never came back out the same. Some swore they saw a pale light flicker from the top on stormy nights, even though the glass lens was shattered years ago. I never believed it. I thought it was just another fishing town ghost story, until the night I saw the light myself. The storm rolled in fast. I was driving along the coastal road, rain hammering my windshield, when a beam of white cut through the dark. One long flash, then another. It wasn't lightning. The rhythm was steady, deliberate. It came from the lighthouse. I should have kept driving, but curiosity, or maybe stupidity, made me pull over. My boots sank into wet sand as I trudged toward the rocky path that led to the base. The closer I got, the more I felt it, a low humming vibration in the ground. The padlock on the door hung twisted, like someone had snapped it clean in half. Inside, the air was thick with salt and something else. Something metallic, almost like blood. I climbed the spiral stairs, each step groaning under my weight. Halfway up, I heard it. Faint whispers, overlapping, like dozens of voices speaking at once. They weren't in English. My hands trembled as I gripped the railing, but I kept going. When I reached the top, the lantern room was glowing. The shattered glass had somehow reformed, smooth and perfect, and the massive lens rotated slowly, casting that same steady beam out to sea. And standing right beside it was a man. He was soaked, hair plastered to his skull, but his eyes glowed like the light itself. He didn't speak. He just lifted one hand and pointed toward the black ocean. Something moved out there in the waves. Massive, impossible, and getting closer. That's when I realized the whispers weren't coming from the lighthouse. They were coming from the water. Jenna's scream died in her throat as the figure stepped into the dim light. Its eyes were pale, almost milky, yet locked on hers like it had been searching for her all along. "You came back?" it rasped, the voice a warped echo of her own. Her knees nearly buckled. "W, what are you?" It didn't answer, only tilted its head in a slow, unnatural motion. Then it smiled, revealing teeth too sharp for any human mouth. The air turned ice cold, her breath visible in front of her face. Somewhere deep in the house, a floorboard creaked, followed by another, as if someone, or something, else was coming. Jenna turned and bolted for the front door, but when she yanked it open, her heart stopped. Outside wasn't the neighborhood she'd left. It was a black void, stretching endlessly in every direction. She backed away, and the figure moved closer, whispering her name over and over. The sound slithered into her ears, not from the air but from inside her head. Her vision blurred. The floor began to ripple like water. Hands, dozens of them, pushed up from beneath, grabbing her ankles. She fought to break free, but the more she struggled, the tighter they held. The pale-eyed thing crouched before her, its face now inches from hers. "This house keeps what it finds," it hissed. With one final pull, the hands dragged Jenna into the shifting floor. The darkness swallowed her scream, and in the quiet that followed, the house waited. For the next knock,